Hello, my name is Lauren. I am a coach here at DVM Elite, and I am here today to share with you some words of wisdom around hiring doctors for your practice. So, we all know that searching for the right team member can take a lot of time and energy. So, I'm here to help make that process a tad bit easier. I have a few tips for you today that I'll share. They focus around recruitment, interviewing style, and as always, with me, a little bit of focusing on yourself and how you are actually attending to this process. So, as you know, at DVM Elite, we have a lot of different resources for you here that are put in place to help you to have an elite practice owner's experience. So, one of those things is included in tip one, which is recruitment. So, I definitely advise to get creative around recruitment. That can be the types of recruitment fairs that you go to, the types of websites that you post on that you're hiring, maybe using LinkedIn, but also recognizing that DVM Elite has a full cycle recruiting package that you can utilize to support you from beginning to end. We have a wonderful team who is all about supporting and finding those appropriate candidates for you. So recognizing that searching for a doctor is not something that you have to do on your own. We are here to help. And if you don't have as much time or as much capacity for the full cycle recruiting, we also have a recruiting strategy sprint that is a little bit more less time intensive, but nonetheless can help you to reach those goals when it comes to recruiting the best people to interview and to hire and bring onto your team. Now, tip number two is about how to approach the interviewing process. Recognizing that most people are super nervous when they go into an interview, I always like to advise people to focus on a whole person approach to interviewing and make sure that your interviewee is asking you questions just as much as you are interviewing them and asking them questions. This has to be a two-way street. The other thing that I suggest when it comes to interviewing the whole person is making sure that you're using scenario questions. So, scenario questions give you a good idea of how this person thinks, how creative they might be, how patient or impatient they might be. It really gives a good holistic view of the person that you're interviewing. So, say for instance, your team really relies on being creative and having new efficient processes in place. One of the questions that you can ask in your interview is, what steps would you take to create and introduce a new process to our team? So recognizing how they go through that list of the things that they would create, how they would figure it out, how they would communicate to your team, gives you a good eye view of what is happening with this person's thought processes, their temperament, and some of their leadership capabilities. So recognizing this in the interview is always a positive thing. And then also we advise understanding their full motivation. So not only why they became a veterinarian to begin with, but you want to understand what is it that inspired them to find this job? Why did they leave the practice that they were at before? What inspired them moving? If it's move related, what inspired them to get into this as a whole is a great thing, but like I'm saying now, figuring out what inspired this particular job search. That gives you a little bit more understanding of what they need as a person and what you may or may not be able to offer to them as a practice and a workplace. And then last up, like I said, focusing on yourself is always going to be important. So focus on what you need when you're doing the interview process. Always think about, how am I taking notes during this process? Am I asking the same questions to each interviewee? Asking the exact same questions to each interviewee, make sure that you are understanding them and being able to compare apples to apples. You have all of the same information on those interviewees. And then also making sure that you're tuning into, what are your leadership style needs? Where do you possibly need to be up leveled a little bit? Or where does your team need more examples of how to do certain things? If this person is able to provide that for you, then that's going to be something to add as a check mark, as a positive to adding them to your team during the interview process. So after you do the two tips from before, having a great, strong recruitment process, having a really good holistic interview process, you can ask yourself as you're reviewing the candidates, how will this person positively impact my team? If you can't come up with an answer to that very easily and very quickly, then that person may not be the person for your team. And that can help you weed out. So hopefully these tips were very helpful for you. Of course, if you have questions and you need more support, our team is always around to help, and you can reach out to us to let us know what's working and what's not working. Hopefully those things were helpful and that wisdom sticks with you. Have a great rest of the week.